The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me. Taxi. Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
The biggest all-night show on American radio.
You are listening to the biggest all-night show in American radio.
Walter Sterling, the other side of midnight.
Eddy Aragon, who lives in New Mexico. What is the temperature in New Mexico, Eddy?
Currently about 85 degrees, Walter.
A cold
85. It does get hot here, but not like Arizona. Arizona's, I think Phoenix was 110 today, so pretty incredible. But we're about 20 degrees cooler than Phoenix is, but 85 degrees, probably chilling out to about, I don't know, high 50s, low 60s, probably overnight. Great place to come. That's why Jeffrey Epstein came. So great weather.
Eddy Aragon is clearly a broadcaster with that voice. He's on the radio. He also lives near Zorro Ranch. Zorro Ranch was Jeffrey Epstein's hideout in the Southwest, where he probably did the most evil things he did. Doing blackmail with Bill Gates, not actually evil, just kind of cruel. There's a guy with $1 billion, so you blackmail him $1 million, so what? He did that to a lot of people, a lot of famous and powerful people, probably to extort secrets from them, the back door of their software from them, and hand it over to Israel. That's just a hunch. But at Zorro Ranch, it is pretty clear he did other much more sinister, evil, satanic, dangerous practices. And Eddy Aragon is aware of them because the people who work there knew about Eddy because he's a broadcaster and he's known in the community, and there aren't a lot of people there. So people knew him. And they messengered to him that there were very bad things going on at Zorro Ranch. And that got my attention. So welcome, Eddy Aragon. Welcome to the other side of midnight.
Thank you, Walter, and glad to be here. In fact, there's some new information that has just come out about Jeffrey Epstein, Zorro Ranch, that's incredible, and we're talking about more of the macabre, more of the strange, of the unbelievable, and not many people, delve into the details. They know the names of the victims. Most people, if you ask them, they can name Virginia Giuffre or, Annie Farmer because they pay enough attention to it. But we're going to actually talk about a female who was Jeffrey Epstein's partner, and her name is Karina Shuliak. And what's interesting about her as it relates to Zorro Ranch just this week is there's a little bit of a reveal about her occupation. And obviously her age, significant difference between that. So Jeffrey Epstein put her through dental school, and then she graduates from dental school back in 2015. So there is an email that's in the files that came out, Walter, that talks about, this is Jeffrey Epstein, and I quote in an email that he put together, "Please get oxygen for dental office, New York and New Mexico." So you recall, we're looking at these dental offices that are in the New York mansion, that are in, I guess there was one in New Mexico. I didn't see exactly where that was because I have plans from 1998, 1999. And then, it's just unbelievable to me, right? It's kind of crazy that we are talking about these dental chairs in his place, and his girlfriend is a dentist. She graduated from dental school in 2015 and applied for licensure here in New Mexico and Virgin Islands, and you have the New York site as well. So what's really interesting about all this is she filed this dental board stuff where she was going to get certified, application for the licensure for the examination for dentistry here in New Mexico. And by the way, they posted this stuff with her mobile number at Santa Fe, New Mexico, the actual document, which I find surprising. So certain things are blacked out, like date of birth and social security number, but it's obviously that she was born in 1989, and you have all this information, including her cell phone number. Just a little fodder. But this stuff comes out, and you're looking at this, and his girlfriend was young. She's a dentist. There's dental chairs there. There's talk about strange experiments going on with regard to, I mean, Walter, can you hear me?
Yes, but I wasn't going to interrupt you. This is a great story. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I don't need to be one.
I
don't want to be one of those old talk show hosts that you like that keep going. Wow, that's interesting. I don't have to do all that. Just tell your story.
Okay. All right. I thought I lost you. Okay. So, she applies for this licensure in New Mexico. So one would think that, she's going to open up a practice. She just graduated from dental school. She's certainly going to do that. But the dental offices, they weren't shopping for, dentist office. They're setting up dental offices right inside Jeffrey Epstein's, mansion. So who would they use that for? This is kind of, interesting. She put Zorro Smiles. And Zorro, as you've mentioned before, it's one of the worst names that there is, but she was licensed as a New Mexico dentist. This is Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend and the woman that Jeffrey left half of his fortune behind when he quote unquote died, right? So he left it back to this Irina Shuliak. And she was a dentist in New Mexico from August 2015 to around 2021, according to the New Mexico Board of Dental Health. So, you see a dental room in Jeffrey Epstein's chair. We know that the victims were inside here, and I'm starting to put two and two together, right? So something bigger is going on. As I've always talked about, there is a difference between Jeffrey Epstein going into being a jail, we'll just call it that, right, back in for 18 months from 2008 to 2010, and then there's how he behaved afterwards. And of course, there's the infamous jerky stuff that we've talked about from 2011 to 2012, which is just fodder everywhere. And then, the Jericho Labyrinth coming up in 2014, which there's definitely a facility underneath and built underneath that place, because why else would they be demoing that? So that's a clear giveaway. And then, all the way up and from that time, 2013, 2014, he was with this woman. This was his partner. This is who he left everything behind. So one of the things that you start CSIing is how do you identify bodies? Right. And when they get to a crime scene, there's fingerprints, but if it's flesh wounds or if someone burned, obviously fingerprints don't exist. So when there's nothing else exists, what's the one thing that you have? You go to the dental records.
You got your teeth.
There it is. So this was the woman he left half his fortune to. She absolutely knows, and I've been doing some digging around about her background and the country that she's from, and there's some amazing ritual stuff tied to all that I would, maybe get into it another time, because I still haven't done all the research.
No,
but
listen,
I can't.
Hold on. You don't need to do any research. These are radio facts. You can give your opinion. This isn't a news show. Okay. It's not one of those dreary, horrendous shows that people bow down to. That are on other stations that they're just so awful. Democrats and what? Do you have any facts for that? I don't care if you have any facts. I want to hear stories. That's what I want to hear. And wait, my show. Yeah. Wait. And I don't want to hear any more dates. Nobody cares about the dates. The dates are very confusing. 2009 to 2018. When you write your book, I want to hear about why the teeth were taken out, why there are dental records, where they put the bodies. And by the way, you use the phrase, when I was digging around. Don't use that phrase when you're talking about the bodies. This is a great story, and I'd like you to tell the story. This is absolutely astonishing. Now, if you have questions for Eddy Aragon about Epstein, about Zorro Ranch, this is the most astonishing story of our time, where children were possibly kidnapped, dental work was done on them for sexual reasons, and these are the most evil people alive. Eddy Aragon, the stage is yours. You keep revealing exclusive stories on the other side of midnight, and you are welcome.
Well, Walter, I have to say, disturbing doesn't even begin to tell it, because, Jeffrey Epstein ordered ambulances. He bought 3 ambulances. You know what he put on the side of them?
What?
Zorro ambulance. And you're like, I mean, just the audacity for what he was doing, what he was already known for. after he got out of prison. Yeah, and he was figuring out different ways, and this leads more to the jerky, to the cannibalism, to it tends to go more in that direction because his accomplice, his partner in crime, a woman who inherited all this property and all this fortune, was also a dentist. And I imagine going to Columbia University, I'm sure Jeffrey Epstein didn't have to pull very many strings to make all that happen. So here's what is really creeping into my brain, and I think it is in the general, sort of malaise of this story that's just permeating everything. And I really have to think that, if we're looking at this with our own two eyes, we can't believe what the next thing is. The next thing is. And this next thing is his accomplice is someone who had dental chairs in there, maybe to remove teeth, to remove dental traces, fingerprints, all of that, as I said before. The cannibalism and all that. I'm going into this direction, so I started looking into body identification stuff. And anybody can look this up, and I started looking at, well, why would someone do something like this, right? What do they do? You have these in, depending upon what, however you're finally disposed of, these are like tools that are meant for hospitals, right? And it's just absolutely unbelievable to me that this information that's now coming out should be subpoenaing Irina Shurliak for what happened and what she was doing and why those dental chairs were there. Because that's a direct component. She is one of the people that has not been subpoenaed, not been brought to the front. She wasn't subpoenaed by our state of New Mexico nor by the Department of Justice. She's like almost untouchable. And it makes me start thinking of her as a madam, maybe somebody who was now in Ghislaine's position right after that, because Ghislaine couldn't be controlled anymore. They were partners of a different nature, but that's what Jeffrey needed. He needed people to so he could recruit them, bring them in, and in the case of Irina Shurliak, the one thing that he hated more than anything is being in prison. And what's the number one way you can do it is make sure you have dead men leave no tails. Get rid of them. And that, what I believe is his process after getting out of prison. This was his process, and she was an accomplice to that. And that's where these dental records, in my opinion, need to be looked at. And if she's not subpoenaed in all this, Walter, then there is not going to be any justice. I mean, she benefited more by Jeffrey Epstein's death than anybody else. And she also had more she probably committed more of the crimes, or just as many of the crimes during that time as Jeffrey Epstein did, because she's part of the disposal.
She had to, she received at least half of his assets. Nobody got more money out of this than this woman. I am shocked that she hasn't been subpoenaed. I'm shocked that her name isn't just the commonly known name along with Jeffrey's. And then when I look at who's in jail, Ghislaine, and who was in jail, him, okay, great. Well, there are hundreds of other people involved with this. I'd be happy with like the top 10 getting subpoenaed and brought into court. I don't understand why that isn't happening. Do you?
I don't know. I don't know who's really leading the charge. I mean, the people who are tasked with leading whatever, interrogation, congressional review or whatever, they're never the ones leading it. As we know, Jeffrey Epstein was speaking questions into the woman from the Virgin Islands as, I think it was a judicial, for Kavanaugh. That's right, for Kavanaugh. Jeffrey Epstein was in that room whispering stuff to the representative from the U.S. Virgin Islands. Right. So you think about like, oh, they're really going to get justice. We're really going to prosecute. We're really going to figure it out. I mean, here in New Mexico, they're not going to do that. It's just all something else. And look, Walter, he paid $50,684 for an ambulance in 2016. An invoice in the Justice Department Trump file shows this. It also included, get this, a 100-pound oxygen tank, a medical cot, and a defibrillator. Okay. So we've covered all three of those. The oxygen tank is also, what did she need at the very beginning of this, whole entire set here? I mean, you're looking at, please get oxygen for dental office, New York and New Mexico. So it's weird. Right there. They did something. They were doing something. We talked about the adrenochrome. We've talked about And I want to get back into that because this dental chair with his main accomplice had to be involved. And no one is talking about that.
But you are on the other side of midnight, which is heard in Chicago on WGN. And there is Jay. Welcome at 800-848-9222. Jay with Eddy Aragon talking about Zorro Ranch and Jeffrey Epstein's most evil deeds.
It sounds like a creepy science fiction movie almost. You know, out here in Ohio, we had a dentist that would knock you out and fondle these hot-looking dental women that came in, and he got in some big trouble for that. But this is just amazingly sounds like a science fiction movie.
Well, one of the theories about why they had dental chairs, this is a new one tonight, to disrupt the dental records. Okay, but the other reason, the theory was to remove the front teeth, which can interfere with sexual pleasure.
Oh, my gosh.
Right.
That's like a science fiction movie, you know.
Do you have any questions for Eddy, Jay?
No, I'm glad she wasn't my dentist. I'm just glad she was.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much for the call. 800-848-9222. How much money did this woman get? Do you know that, Eddy? About?
What? Well, if it was half, it'd probably be right around $350 million, I would imagine. But there's no way for me to really know. I would say if it's half, he was worth $700 million when he died, according to records. But I have always contended that he never had any money. He was just a pass through. He just filtered money into corporations that were bought on LLCs in his offshore accounts and the Virgin Islands, which still exists to this very day, and people are using them. And the money got transferred. So I mean, it's all right there. Oh, why do you think they're hanging out in the Virgin Islands? In the Virgin Islands, folks. I mean, think about that. It's just incredible. So,
and who was it in Congress who was his mouthpiece? It was the woman from the Virgin Islands, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Now, the other thing about that I'm really glad you reminded us about that. She was she was listening to testimony, and she was getting texts from Jeffrey Epstein with what questions to ask this candidate to be a Supreme Court justice. That scenario right there is it's terrifying to me that somebody from the Virgin Islands, not a state, a territory, had the right to question a candidate for the Supreme Court. I don't know how that happened. I don't like that. And besides, she was a whack job. On top of that, she's getting texts from Jeffrey freaking Epstein about what to ask the candidate. How did that happen? How did he have her private phone number? How were they such good friends that she felt confident just repeating Jeffrey Epstein questions to a candidate to be the Supreme Court justice? And now we're reminded that in the Virgin Islands he had outposts, he had access, he had bank accounts, he was running millions of dollars through it. Amazing, just freaking amazing. Eddy Aragon in New Mexico, how do we hear you on the radio?
rockoftalk.com. That's rockoftalk.com. This is fun, folks. I got to tell you, I want to say the actual numbers here. $50 million in immediate cash is what she got. $50 million via an annuity. Also a 32.73 carat diamond ring, in contemplation for marriage. And then all of the major properties, including the townhouse, the Zorro Ranch, and the apartment near the Arc de Triomphe and Little St. James Island. She also got the Palm Beach estate as well. So pretty much everything, from what I can tell. The one on the Upper East Side there, that 71st Street, I think is probably like 110, 115 million, something along those lines. Zorro Ranch is easily a $25-30 million property. The Paris apartment, probably 10 million, much like the Palm Beach. Palm Beach and Miami's going crazy. So yeah, I think that's a conservative estimate of about 350 million.
She did just fine. I can't wait to hear her testify. It'll be fascinating. Eddy Aragon, always good to have you on the other side of midnight.
The Marine Toys for Tots foster care program is bringing hope to children who need it most. Every 2 minutes, a child enters foster care, often with only a small bag of belongings. More than 400,000 children face trauma and uncertainty, many before age 8. This May, during Foster Care Awareness Month, Toys for Tots is creating Room for Joy. In 2025, nearly 375,000 children received comfort through toys, books, and essentials, reminding them they are not alone. Donate now and change a child's life.